This video is sponsored by Chimeraland, now available on Steam, PC, Android, and iOS, for free. Did you know? Chimeraland was inspired by Shan Hai Jing, a 2,000-year-old book full of legends and mythical creatures that Chinese people once believed were real. But over the centuries, many Chinese came to realize these creatures were simply the stuff of folklore. They also once believed the book was written by the creatures themselves, but eventually realized that that too was a myth. Even today, though, no one knows for sure who was the real author, with some believing it was written by many authors over hundreds of years. Translated into English, Shan Hai Jing means classic of the mountains and seas, and it's more than just a bestiary. It also describes an imaginary version of China with hundreds of fictional locations, which the developers at Pixelsoft realized would be the perfect inspiration for an open-world monster hunting MMO. Pixelsoft told us, "We aimed to restore that mythical world of ancient mountains, rivers, and ancient beasts. Players can capture, collect, ride, and devour creatures from Shan Hai Jing, like Droon and the Serpent. We wanted to honor and digitize Eastern mythology, especially Shan Hai Jing, and how they paint an idyllic world where humans and strange monsters can find peace and coexist. We recreated this vision in Chimeraland, so people around the world can experience the uniqueness and creativity of Eastern mythology." Half the fun of Chimeraland is discovering all 300+ monsters and learning their origins, so we'll take a look at some of the most interesting parts of the mythology in today's video. One of the game's creatures is the Serpent, which is based on Yulong. Yulong are huge river-dwelling dragons that hatch from eggs, and according to legend, when Yulong sees a human, it'll trap them with its stinky saliva, then pull them underwater and suck out their blood from the armpits. In reality, Yulong were probably ancient people's exaggerated crocodile stories, but Chimeraland's all about bringing the legends to life. So here, they're 50-foot-long dragons you can ride underwater. The creature Droon is based on the giant Quinn, huge fish that swim in the depths and turn into birds who fly in the sky. In the legend, Quinn flies an impressive 90,000 miles high, but there's a quail hanging out in a swamp below mocking him, saying, "Where's he think he's going? What a moron, it's pointless to fly so high. You only need to fly high enough to grab some bugs out a tree or something, that's what I do." The giant Quinn is an idiot. Like a lot of mythology, there's a deeper meaning here. The Quinn's journey from the depths to the heavens is a metaphor for the human spirit's struggle to reach its full potential, and the quail represents the haters who just want to drag him down. Moral of the story? Don't be a hater. Fly high, like the giant Quinn. Probably our favorite legend is Nyan, one of Eastern mythology's most important myths that still has a huge influence on how people live in the modern era. Legends tell of a vicious beast called Nyan, who comes out of hiding at the start of each year to terrorize villages and gobble up their inhabitants. The villagers dreaded it all year long, knowing they were going to get decimated. But they eventually discovered Nyan could be scared away by the color red and loud noises. In the Chinese language, the word for year is Nian, named after the monster, and every Chinese New Year, or New Nian, people hang up red lanterns, burn red candles, wear red clothes, and shoot off extremely loud fireworks. They don't have to look cool, they just have to be loud. Everyone gets involved, a bit like America's 4th of July, just much louder and for about a month straight. We've seen it firsthand and it's wild. These New Year's traditions have survived into modern times, all to scare away the terrors of the Nyan. No one's seen it in real-life China in a long time. Clearly, it's because of all those fireworks, but you can still find it in Chimeraland. There's also Yulong, a dragon with the face of an old man. This one might actually ring some bells with Pokemon fans, since the original Chinese myth was also the basis for Drampa. According to Shan Hai Jing, he's a powerful mountain god who creates daylight by opening his eyes, nightfall by closing them, and causes seasonal winds with his breathing. Modern Chinese scholars are always trying to figure out how these legends were born. Some think it was ancient people trying to explain the aurora borealis, or possibly sunlight itself. But the true origins will probably remain a mystery till the end of time. But Pixelsoft didn't just want to recreate Shan Hai Jing. They also wanted to adapt mythology from other parts of the world, so they added other Eastern cultures' myths, like the Japanese Kitsune. This one will probably sound familiar to Pokemon fans as well, since it was the inspiration for both Ninetales and Zoroark. According to Japanese folklore, Kitsune are supernatural foxes who grow more tails as they get older. When they turn 1,000 years old, they grow their 9th tail and transcend into the heavens. Kitsune can also breathe fire and take on human forms. Sometimes they'll turn into beautiful young women and trick men into marrying them, then suck out their chi. You don't want your chi to get sucked out. You get sick and lose all your energy, you don't live as long. It's not a good time. Meanwhile, the Kitsune uses its chi to grow more powerful and extend its lifespan. Similar stories are told in China, and there are lots of fairy tales about guys who fell into that same trap. It happens more than you'd think. Back in the old days, everyone had a friend of a friend who got suckered in by a kitsune, so guys were always trying to make sure their new lady friends weren't foxes in disguise. You can never be too careful about that kind of thing. The Chimeraland team peppered in some Western mythology as well, like the Greek Gorgon Medusa, a woman with snakes for hair and eyes that turn you to stone. And of course, there's the titular beast Chimera from Greek mythology, a fire-breathing lion with a snake for a tail and the head of a goat growing out of its back. Its mother was the half-woman, half-snake Echidna, and its father was the serpentine giant Typhon, who tried to overthrow Zeus and conquer the cosmos. According to legend, the Chimera comes from an area of Turkey where gas seeps from the ground, causing fire that never goes out. It's a real place actually, called the Lycian Way, and the fires are still burning to this day, thousands of years later. According to Homer's Iliad, the Chimera was a bane to many men, and finally killed by the hero Bellerophon and his Pegasus. In a recent update, Pixelsoft also threw some dinosaurs into the mix, not just because it's cool to fight dragons against dinosaurs, but also as a way to pass down history through entertainment. They told us, "We love the fiction of dinosaurs like Jurassic Park and movies like that, but we also wanted to resurrect the reality of dinosaurs, so we sought expert guidance from the geological museums of China, who provided 3D models to help us recreate them as accurately as possible." Players can fight, catch, and collect different species of T-Rexes and dragons through continental exploration, and they can also learn more about them at in-game virtual museums. These museums have geological quizzes if players want to study and test their knowledge of the ancient world and culture, because honoring history and passing it down to the next generation is really important to us. Pixelsoft started working on Chimeraland in 2014, with a team that grew to 200 developers at its peak, and with one core concept being freedom. So they made 18 customizable races to choose from, many of them also based on Shan Haijing, and 4 continents you can pick as your starting point. Pixelsoft told us each continent has its own unique geography, weather, and wildlife, and when you add them all up, the 4 continents are over 1,000 square kilometers big. Picking a different faction means you'll have a different birthplace, starting environment, crafting resources to collect, and so on. The developers told us, "We wanted different players to have different experiences and defy the norm that there's one predetermined path by creating an open world where you can go anywhere and do anything." Then went on to say that letting players build their own homes, or survival shelters, plays into that concept of freedom as well. You can build any way you want, so there's a sense of individuality while also being part of a collective, since all the players together are essentially constructing Chimeraland's world, taming the wilderness like explorers of the distant past. You can also devour Chimeraland's creatures and use their parts to build your own unique beasts, however you see fit. If you're curious and want to explore Chimeraland yourself, you can find it on PC, Steam, Android, and iOS. Free to download on all platforms. So try it out. There's a link in this video's description. And if you use this promo code, you'll get some extra items. Thanks again to the Chimeraland team for sponsoring today's video. And see you next time.